Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Chad Chats Comics. I'm your host Chad. You may or may not know me from the Pancake Boat podcast, the pop culture podcast that I've hosted since 2011 with two of my best friends, TF and Joe. I've also done a lot of pro wrestling podcasts with my friend Joe, and kind of wanted to do a little comic book podcast for quite some time, because anytime I talk about comics on the Pancake Boat, I feel like it bores the others. They're not really into comics as much as I am. So I thought, hey, may as well do a separate podcast here. Gotta admit, I'm more used to doing podcasts with multiple people, at least one other person, so I'm a little out of my element here, so it may take a while to get used to this, but I don't know, I think it'll be fun. Give you a little backstory here. I've been into comics since I was really young. I think I was about 3 or 4 years old. The original Flash show that was on CBS with John Wesley Shipp, who of course plays Jay Garrick on the current Flash show. That was probably my introduction to comic books. It was really the first time I had ever seen, like a superhero on TV, as far as I can remember. And the Tim Burton Batman movies were also big around that time. A couple years later, I was big time into the Spider-Man animated series that was on Fox, and then I started to actually read the comics when discovered this little local comic book shop that was in the area. Unfortunately, it's not around anymore. I would love to go there today, but yeah, I used to read the comics quite a bit when I was a kid. I remember one notable comic that I was really into was the DC versus Marvel, the 4-part series back in the 90s. Which was really cool because you could see like the DC characters going up against the Marvel characters. It was a very interesting story. I still actually have those comics somewhere. They're not really in the best condition because I read them so much. A lot of wear and tear, and I think they're in my mom's basement somewhere. But may as well jump into things here. I figured I'd start out this show by talking about some of the current comic book related TV shows that I'm into that are on today. And I'm not really sure where we're going to go in future episodes. I don't know if we're just going to review the shows like on the week, or maybe I'll talk about some older shows or older movies or some of the movies that come out. I don't know. There really isn't any format. I'm just going to talk about geeky stuff on here. That's basically just what it's going to be. But yeah, I should start out by saying that this show is going to be mainly about comic book related TV shows and movies. I don't really read the comics as much as I used to when I was a kid, and even a couple of years ago. It's I still get them every once in a while, but usually when I do today, it's like the graphic novels, like the bigger, more well-known stories. I just don't really have the money to get to keep up with all the comics. There's so many these days, and they're getting pricier, and it's pretty hard to keep up with them. But anyone that still does, props to you for being able to do so. But yeah, this is going to be mainly about comic-related TV shows and movies, and may as well start with my favorite, The Flash. I have been in love with this show since episode 1. It's everything that I've ever wanted in a comic book show. It's got a great cast. They all have great chemistry together. Interesting stories, and really it's fun. I think that's what I've always liked about it, is it's just a fun show. And season 1 was amazing. Season 2, I liked it a lot. Season 3, kind of been up and down on it a little bit. I know there's been some people that have kind of lost interest in it. I wouldn't go that far. It's still my favorite show. It's still, a show that I look forward to watching every week, but definitely does kind of feel like there's something missing this season. It feels like Barry's been a little mopier this season. I know a lot of people aren't caring for that. And I think the fact that we've had a speedster villain 3 years in a row, I think we're ready for something new. Thankfully, they did say in Season 4 that we're going to be getting a different kind of villain, which I'm looking forward to, because I feel like you can only do that so many times. Reverse Flash was the best, and he's actually been making Legends of Tomorrow quite a bit better this season. We'll get into that a little bit later. And I like Zoom. Savitar, I mean, he's been good, but I don't know, I'm just kind of sick of that. I kind of want to see Flash go up against, something different. I know he goes up against other speedsters in the comics a lot, but I'm ready for something different. I'm ready for a different kind of season, but like I said, I still love the show. I don't want to take away from that. It's still my favorite show. It's something that I look forward to every single week. I still think there's a lot to love about the show. I still think the cast is great. I've enjoyed Caitlyn's like Killer Frost storyline this year. I think that's been interesting. Flashpoint was great to finally see on the show. People have been wanting to see that for years. I feel like they probably could have gotten more out of that. I feel like he was in the Flashpoint universe or alternate timeline for one episode, and then he just fixes things. Although it didn't really fix things, it changed a lot. But yeah, I kind of would like to see a little bit more done with that. It kind of feels like they're getting away from that a little bit now in the second half of the season. I think Julian has been a great addition. I've really enjoyed it. I wasn't too sure what I thought about his character at first, but I've really come to like his character. And Tom Cavanaugh is great as always. I wasn't really a big fan of HR at first either. I'm just so used to Wells being a certain way. I know that we've had two different versions of Wells as far as like major characters. The Reverse Flash, it wasn't really Wells, but you know what I mean. And then we had Harry in season 2. I loved Harry. I think Harry's still my favorite. Just something about him, just his gruff demeanor. I just really like the dude. And this season we've had HR, and I do got to give him props at least. He's playing a different role every year, and that's pretty cool to see. It's different, so I like that. Yeah, still a lot to like about the show. I'm definitely interested to see where they go. I think he's going to save Iris. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if he didn't save Iris. I think we're going to get some kind of big twist. I really, really hope Joe doesn't die. I would be really sad by that, because I feel like Joe is such a big part of the show's heart that I feel like if he were to die and not be around anymore, I think it would hurt the show. There's a lot of theories about what's going to happen and who Savitar is. I know one popular theory that I've read about is that Savitar may actually be future Barry. And I don't know about that. I think it's kind of an interesting scenario. I think the one thing about that theory that kind of puts me off, though, is I really couldn't see Barry killing Iris. I mean, I realize that this would be a completely different Barry than the one we see on the show right now, but I don't know, it's hard to imagine that Barry would ever get to a point so dark that he would want to kill Iris, but I don't know, I'm definitely interested to see if that happens or where they go with it, but yeah, still been enjoying the show, a little less than the first 2 seasons, but I still think it's a great show, and I think I have high hopes for season 4. I think season 4 is going to do something different, and probably get back the some of the people that it may have lost, but let's jump into another Arrowverse show here, Arrow, which was the show that kind of kicked off the Arrowverse. And I have kind of a bit of a complex history with this show. I gotta admit, I didn't really like it at first, back when it came out in 2012. I remember I watched the first few episodes, and I don't know, it just wasn't clicking with me. It was a little bit darker than I was kind of expecting with it. And, some people really like that, but it kind of put me off at first, and I think a big part of that was I was so used to the Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, and Smallville, which I was a huge fan of, and I think I'll do a whole separate podcast one day about Smallville, but yeah, I was a big fan of that Green Arrow, and I kind of thought, hey, if you're going to do a Green Arrow show, why don't you just give him a spin-off? But I didn't really give Stephen Amell a chance, I'll be honest about it, but years later, The Flash came out. Like I said, I love that. Love at first sight, and I figured, if this is going to go on, I'm going to be a fan of this, I should probably check out Arrow again. I should probably give that another try. So I went back and watched the first few seasons of Arrow, and I actually really liked it the second time around. I don't know what it is. I think I just went into it with more of an open mind, and yeah, I thought the first 2 seasons were really great. Season 2 especially, with Deathstroke, was just awesome. Season 3, not quite as good. I know a lot of people aren't too high on that season. Season 4, I think, arguably, a lot of people even less into than Season 3. But I don't know, I like them. But Season 2, I would say, was probably my favorite season of Arrow. And, this season's kind of been back to form for some people. It's kind of back to its more, less comic powery. I don't really know how to say that, but kind of back to its more, kind of back to the way it was in like season 1, where it's just it's less about powers and all this outrageous stuff, and back to being the more grounded show, dealing with street crimes and stuff like that. And I gotta admit, there's been points of this season that I just haven't been into. I gotta admit too, I was pretty angry about the way they killed off Laurel last season. I was a big fan of Laurel, so I really wasn't too happy about the fact that they did that, and I know a lot of other people weren't too happy about that. So I kind of went into this season almost with a scowl, like how dare you kill off one of my favorite characters. But I'm kind of digging the new Black Canary, the Dinah Drake version. I think she's doing a good job. I still think there's a lot that they can do with the character. I feel like, they can kind of get more into her. I mean, I know they did some of her backstory, but I feel like she hasn't really connected with me yet, like emotionally. So hopefully they'll do more with her. They're kind of at a point now where they have to get into the heavy stuff of the season, so there's not really that much time to slow down and do that much with her. But yeah, I've been liking her. Wasn't too crazy about the new team at first either. Like, really didn't care for Wild Dog at first. Like, he just really put me off. But one thing I will say about character development is, as the season's gone on, I've actually really grown to like him quite a lot. And Curtis has got some good character development this year. I was pretty surprised to see the route that they went with Evelyn. Having her become kind of a villain, I guess, working with Prometheus. And speaking of Prometheus, for me, that was really the turning point of the season. When we found out that it was Adrian, that was really the point where it's like, okay, I'm invested in this season. I'm digging this. I think I've been into it ever since. It was kind of a slow start to the season for me, but really been getting into it the past few episodes. And, like I said with Flash, I'm very curious to see where they go with this. Curious to see if they reveal the identity of Vigilante, too, because everybody kind of expected that would be Adrian, because that's who he is in the comics, and they kind of swerved us there. So I guess we'll see, where they go with that. But definitely some interesting twists this season, and interested to see where it goes. Tomorrow next, which I would say, out of all the Arrowverse shows, even though The Flash is my favorite, I would say Legends of Tomorrow has really been my favorite one to watch this season, which is funny because I had all these high hopes for season 1, and it felt like it didn't really live up to it. It was fun to see these characters all together, going through time, like these misfit characters from Flash and Arrow. I very much liked the concept. I wanted to love the show, but it just felt like something wasn't working. I wasn't a huge fan of the Hawk characters, to be honest. Nothing against the actors. I just, I don't know, like their backstory and everything. I wasn't really into it. Vandal Savage was not the most popular character with a lot of fans either, and I feel like when season 2 started and they kind of got away from all that stuff and added the new characters, I feel like it's really added new life to Legends. I feel like they've really found their groove. I feel like they have more chemistry together now. It just feels like a better show. It just flows better. And, it's just a lot of fun. And I think the new villains, the Legion of Doom, has been a great addition to this season as well. Reverse Flash, who was my favorite villain on The Flash. I think he's been great on there. I think I like Damien Dark even better on here than I did on Arrow. And, Malcolm Merlin's always great. And now they're bringing Captain Cold into the fold. Little rhyme for you there. But I have really, really enjoyed Legends of Tomorrow this season. I'm sad that there's only like 2 more episodes left, because I would love to watch this every week. But yeah, the season is coming to an end now. As I'm recording this, the Legion of Doom got the spear. They've rewritten history, and I am very excited to see where they go with that. And I'm very excited to see how the season ends. Apparently Katie Cassidy, Laurel's going to be in the final episode. Not really sure what to expect. I would love if they were to bring her in and make her a regular in season 3. I think she would be a great addition to the show, especially because it kind of feels like Amaya is kind of go back to the past, kind kind of feels like, as much as I've enjoyed her on the show, it kind of feels like, for history's sake, she kind of has to go. But yeah, I think Laura would be a great addition to the show. And I think Nate's been a great addition to the show, too. I wasn't really too sure about him at first, and I still even have moments sometimes where it's like, is it really necessary to have him and Ray, because they're kind of the same character, and I kind of have more emotional attachment to Ray because he's been around longer, but in a way I kind of like it, though. It's like these two nerdy guys that are like friends, It's just kind of cool. I really like them together, so I really hope, I'd really like to not see them kill off any characters. Like I said, Amaya's probably going to go back to her own timeline, but I don't really want to see anyone killed off, I know it's like a big thing with the Arrowverse shows. It feels like every year they have to kill someone off. I don't really want to see that. I feel like we have, like, the perfect cast as it is. Just add Laurel and we're good, but there's been some rumors that maybe Stein is going to go, which would make me sad, but honestly, I can kind of see it happening because, like, the Firestorm powers, like, they don't even use it, like, very often because I guess it's, like, really expensive to animate it, and that's one complaint I have about Legends is sometimes it feels like they purposely will come up with these ways to not have people use their powers just to save money, which I get. I mean, you have a budget, you can only do so much. Like, I used to wonder, like, why doesn't Adam ever shrink? Like, why is he more like this Iron Man-like character? And, he just flies around, shoots lasers and stuff, but thankfully they're having him start to shrink more, which I think is cool. Yeah, they're using Firestorm a lot less these days, so too surprised if they were to write him out, but I hope not. But yeah, Legends of Tomorrow this season, it's been awesome. And that leaves one more Arrowverse show, which is Supergirl, which, I don't know, I'm not as into it as I am the other shows. Like, I love Kara. I think she's a great character, but it feels a lot of times like the rest of the show isn't clicking for me as much. Like the whole storyline with Jimmy, or James, I guess, on this show becoming the Guardian. I'm not really that into that. Like, that's not the Jimmy Olsen I know, and I realize, I mean, you're gonna reinterpret characters. You can always tell new stories, but that's not really working for me. But I still enjoy the show. Yeah, I'm just not quite as into it as I am the other Arrowverse shows, but I think it's been a good season, and curious to see where they go with season 3. I'd like to see Superman show up more. Not too much, because you don't want to make it... I mean, it's Supergirl's show. You want her to be the star, but I just really enjoyed seeing Superman on the show, and I think it'd be fun to see him pop up, a couple times a year, instead of just doing, like, one or two at the beginning of the year. Maybe have him show up once at the beginning of the year, once in the middle, once at the very end, Spread it out a little bit. By the way, I would actually very much love to see Superman show up in the crossover next year. I don't know how likely that is, especially since it'll be right around the time of the Justice League movies coming out. But maybe they'll actually increase the chances. Who knows? But I would very much love to see that. But yeah, I enjoy the show. I've enjoyed seeing the Luthors on there. I thought it was actually pretty fun to see a Lionel Luthor. I wasn't quite sure if we'd ever see that again, but very different Lionel Luthor than the Smallville character. But I think just hearing Lionel Luthor on another show is just really cool to me. I'd actually like to see them bring in Chloe Sullivan at some point. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see a new take on her. But yeah. Other than that, I mean, the Arrowverse shows, we've already been through those. Gotham, I've enjoyed that this season. The thing about Gotham is I've had kind of a love and hate relationship with that show. There's been times where I just thought it was kind of stupid. Like I think when Jerome died, and they did that thing where, anybody could be the Joker, and they showed all these people, like, laughing. I thought that was the hokiest, dumbest thing ever, and it's like, you have this guy that makes a great Joker. Just let him be the Joker. So I'm glad they brought him back, because I think he's phenomenal. I think he's actually probably one of my favorite Jokers, even though he's not officially the Joker. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this show this season, and it's kind of fun to watch. Bruce getting closer and closer to becoming Batman, and like I said, Jerome is great, Penguin is great, Riddler is great. A lot of times the villains steal the show on Gotham, and that was kind of another issue in season one. It kind of felt like, why are they introducing all of these Batman characters now when Bruce is still like 13 or 14 years old? But they're a lot of fun, man. I've really enjoyed the show. It's kind of on a break right now. I guess it's gonna come back, I think, in a couple weeks to end off the season. But yeah, I still like Gotham. Anyone that gave up on it, I would advise to give it another try, because you just gotta kind of go into it with an open mind. It's not the Batman that you know. It's not even Batman. It's a young Bruce Wayne. But it's fun. It's a fun show to watch, and I enjoy it. Moving into Marvel, I'm not as big of a fan of Marvel as I am DC. Like, I love Spider-Man, and I see a lot of the movies, and I watch the Netflix shows, but I'm just not as emotionally attached with Marvel as I am with DC. So I'm not quite as into these shows as I am the DC shows, but I still watch a lot of them. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I never really got into. I've tried to like it. I want to like it. Just something about it just doesn't click with me. I'm just not that into it. Iron Fist came out on Netflix last weekend. A lot of controversy there. A lot of people didn't like it. Racial issues, and a lot of people just didn't like the martial arts. They didn't think that was very well done. And that's cool. I mean, you can like it or not. I don't really care. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I actually like the show. I thought it was actually probably one of my favorite of the Marvel shows. I like Daredevil better, but I thought it was interesting. A lot of the complaints that people had just weren't big things to me. Like, yeah, it'd be better if they had better fight scenes, but I'm not in it for the fight scenes. I'm in it for the story. I'm a story guy. So a lot of people didn't like seeing so many scenes in the boardroom. Thought it was boring. I thought it was pretty interesting. I actually enjoyed the stuff with the Meacham characters. I thought it was interesting. I was a big fan of the Luthers back in Smallville. Kind of reminded me of that. Not as good as that, but kind of gave me that same feeling. I liked that it was a bit lighter at first. I can't really say that about the whole thing, but at first it was like, yeah, this has been a little bit lighter than the other shows like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and I kind of liked that it feels a little different. And then a couple episodes later, I'm watching someone kill someone with an ice cream scoop. So yeah, it didn't really keep that light tone, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun show. I got through it in about 2 days. I never felt bored, and yeah, I'm very anxious to see the Defenders in a couple months. I think this summer. So we're finally here. I'm excited for that. And another Marvel show that I've been watching is Legion, and I really don't know what to think about this show. I remember when I saw the first episode, it's like, hey, this is really cool. This is really different. I really like this. And I kind of came away from that first episode like, yeah, I'm definitely going to keep watching this. And then the next few episodes just weren't quite as good. I don't know whether I like it or not. That's the thing. It's a very trippy show. A lot of times, you don't even know what's going on. And sometimes I think the slow pace kind of gets to me. I kind of like a faster paced show, like The Flash. And this is definitely not The Flash. This is a very different show from The Flash. I think the slower pace just kind of, I don't know, sometimes I just kind of sit there and I'm kind of half watching it, half browsing the internet, just seeing what's going on. And, it's like, I haven't stopped watching it, so at least that's something. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I couldn't really continue watching that. I just wasn't into it. But Legion, it's like, I'm here. There's one more episode left of the season. I'm still watching it. I'm still curious to see what's going on. And there's some great stuff in there. There's a lot of interesting, turns in there. It's just I feel like there's a lot I don't like about the show as well. I would like to see them maybe pick up the pace a little bit in season 2, have more actually happen, and less, memories and daydreams and whatever. I'm not saying don't be Legion. I'm just saying maybe do it a little more excitedly. But Yeah, it's I would definitely recommend it to anybody to check out because I feel like some people would love it, some people would hate it. You know, check it out for yourself and see what you think. I've never been a big X-Men guy. I don't know what it is. Like, I mentioned that I'm not as into Marvel as I am DC, but I've always loved Spider-Man. I love Daredevil. I love Captain America. I've just never really connected with the X-Men. I don't. I'm not that into it. So I didn't really go into this expecting an X-Men show. I just expected to, it's a new show. I'll check it out, and I've kind of enjoyed it and kind of not. So I don't really know whether I'd say I like it or not. It's just a very weird show, but it's one that I'm gonna continue watching. And I think that does it for the first episode here. I think I've covered most of the current shows. Got some good movies coming out later this year. We got Spider-Man: Homecoming, Justice League, Wonder Woman. I'm excited for all of those. Power Rangers movie, which isn't really a comic book movie, but it's a superhero movie. I was a big Power Rangers fan growing up. I'm excited to see that. So I might review that, might not. I don't know. I really don't know what future episodes are gonna have, but this was fun, and I'm anxious to do this again. And want to thank everyone for listening, and hope you enjoyed it.